You have your own land coming. Just like God was leading the Israelites to this promised land, you too are being led to a space and a place that is meant for you. Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Melody and I make faith-based content here on YouTube. I post new videos every single Monday. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely be sure and subscribe. I would love to have you join the family. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about 3 signs that we can rely on as we are walking into this new year and likely this new season that God is moving in our lives, even if we don't feel like He is. I know in my own faith walk, I have realized time and time again that perspective is everything. Being able to recognize God's hand on our life and how He is moving doesn't necessarily change the situation, but it changes how we walk through it. Being able to recognize that He is moving, again, even when it feels like He's not, changes our heart posture. It changes our attitude and it changes how we wait. It is so important that we know the truth right now, especially because the enemy wants to sow seeds of doubt. When we don't feel like God's moving, the enemy wants us to believe that He's not. But we serve a God who has shown us in the Bible that even when we don't feel it, even when we don't realize it, He is moving because He is that good of a Father. So in this video, we are going to be focusing again on 3 signs coming straight from the Word of God, and these are going to be our guiding light as we walk into 2024. Now, before we hop into it, I want to go ahead and pause here and thank the sponsor of today's video, the Created for This membership club, my membership club. This is a community for women all across the world who want to grow in their relationship with God and do so surrounded by women who want the same thing. The club doors have been open for a little over a year now, and it has been my absolute honor and joy to steward the girls in this club towards the Lord and to cultivate a space where women are able to connect with one another. We have had sisters in the club fly across the country to spend the holidays together. This is the type of club where if you lean in, you will find your people. What I love most about the club is that we have time every single month to meet collectively as a community, but there's always that opportunity to connect individually in our Discord group chat. Each month we have one live Bible study call. We also have one live Q&A, and both of these calls are with me. And we also have something new starting in January. We're going to have weekly videos walking through a specific book in the Bible, focusing on women in the Bible. Each video will be accompanied by its own workbook to really allow you to dive deep into the material. I think it's so important that we go into 2024 being intentional about godly community. There is so much change that the Lord wants you to experience in your life, and sometimes that change has to be experienced in the context of sisterhood. So if sisterhood is something that's on the top of your mind, I definitely encourage you to check out the CFT Club. You can use code sisterhood2024 to get 20% off your first month. I hope to see you inside the club doors soon. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and hop into our 3 signs that God is moving even when it doesn't feel like He is. So number 1 on our list, the first sign that God is working and moving in your life even if you don't realize it is if you feel like you made the wrong turn and that you got His instructions wrong. Now, this might seem a little counterintuitive, so follow me here. We're going to start with the verses and we're going to jump into the book of Matthew. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the verses up and then we'll kind of unpack what this means for the wise men and then what it means for us. So these verses are Matthew chapter 2, verses 9 through 11. And it says, after hearing the king, they went on their way, and there it was, the star they had seen at its rising. It led them until it came and stopped above the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overwhelmed with joy. Entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and falling to their knees, they worshipped Him. They opened their treasures and presented Him with gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So this particular text is coming from explaining the wise men's journey to get to baby Jesus in a manger, in a house, in the back of the house, in the barn. So the wise men first go to the palace where King Herod is, and they say, hey, we heard the King of the Jews is going to be born. It makes sense that a king is going to be in a palace. So imagine their surprise when King Herod says, nope. there's no king here. And so they continue to follow the star. The star then leads them to a house. And imagine them knocking on the door and the person being like, yeah, no king is inside of our house. And then they had to think again, man, we must have got this wrong. I thought we had clear instructions from the Lord to do this specific thing, but we must have made a wrong turn. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been there time and time again with the Lord where I feel like I did what he told me to do, but things are not adding up. The math is not mathing. And so I watched a sermon where the pastor was depicting what he thinks happened in this scene, where they are leaving the house and then they hear a cry in the distance, and it's Jesus in the barn, in a manger behind the house. And so here they are trying to find this King Jesus, baby Jesus, the King of the Jews being born. And they're led from the palace to the house to the barn. And that is where they find him. And that's where we have to remember the truth that the star guiding the wise men wasn't meant to take them to the palace. It was meant to take them to the prince. It was meant to take them to Jesus. And so when we are following the Lord's directions and we are moving in alignment with what he has for us, even when the math is not mathing, sis, he is leading us to Jesus, the path that we are on, even when it doesn't make sense. And especially when it doesn't make sense, we have to know that we are being led to the prince, not to the palace. And likely we probably want to get to the palace, but the prince is actually so much more important. As we can tell, when the wise men got there, they get down their knees and they're worshiping him. They knew what was most important. It wasn't going to the nice fancy palace. It was being next to Jesus. We find God in these places that are unexpected to us, and that is evidence that he is moving in our lives. So that is going to be sign number 1. So number 2 on our list, the second sign that God is moving and working in our lives, even when we don't realize it or feel like he is if we are passing by everybody else's land or everybody else's successes on the way to ours. Now for this particular sign, I feel like it's important that we start with the scriptures just so it makes complete sense and really unpack what this land means. So we're going to go to the book of Deuteronomy. I think that's how. Deuteronomy. There we go. Let me go ahead and pop it up on the screen. It's Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 2 through 5. The Lord then said to me, "You've been traveling around this hill country long enough. Turn north. Command the people, you are about to travel through the territory of your brothers, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. They will be afraid of you, so be very careful. Don't provoke them, for I will not give you any of their land, not even a foot of it, because I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as his possession." Now, for a little bit of context here, God is talking to the Israelites. They've been wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years, and he is finally taking them and leading them to the promised land. And imagine as they're walking, after 40 years in the wilderness, they pass by their first patch of good land, and God says, yeah, no, that land is actually not for you. Keep on walking. Now for us in our lives, this land that we can be passing by that other people have, it can look like their successes. It can look like their gifts, their talents, and the ways that God has used them. And we can get distracted from where God is trying to take us and the way that he is moving because we're so focused on what he's done in someone else's life, or we're so focused on what someone else has been given by God. And sis, this is where we have to remember that their gifts, their talents, their things, their successes are not yours. You have your own land coming. Just like God was leading the Israelites to this promised land, you too are being led to a space and a place that is meant for you. So the more that we're able to focus on this journey of the place that God is bringing us to, and when we're passing by other people's land, we're able to be reminded of the good giver that God is and not covet what he has given them. That is the sign that God is moving and working in our lives. Sis, what God has for you is for you. Don't get distracted. Know that he is working even when you are seeing the blessings in everyone else's life and you still haven't gotten to your land yet. So number 3 on our list, the third and final sign that God is moving and working in our lives even when we don't realize it, is if our situation isn't changing, but our heart is. And our heart is changing because we are holding on to God's promises. So for this particular sign, we are going to be looking at the life of Hannah, and this comes from 1 Samuel chapter 1. But before we dive into the scripture, I want to just focus on this particular sign. So this looks like holding on to God's promises and knowing that even if it doesn't come to pass, that we are steadfast in our belief and faith in God, that is our heart beginning to change. And that is us holding on to his promises regardless of what our situation looks like. And that is how we know that God is working. We know that he is doing things behind the scenes, even if we do not realize it. So for Hannah, this looked like in 1 Samuel chapter 1, she went into a temple. She is a woman that hadn't been able to have any children, and she's married to a man that has another wife named Peninnah who has had multiple children. And Peninnah taunts Hannah for not having any children, and rightfully so. Hannah is sad. She feels it, anger, she feels sadness, she feels like, when is it ever going to be her time? And I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that feeling, whether it is in the realm of children or whether it's just in the realm of waiting on God to do something that you feel like he's promised you that he is going to do. We all have been there. And so as Hannah is waiting on the Lord to give her this child, they go into the city. And as they go into the city to give offerings to the Lord, she goes to the temple by herself and she pours out her heart to God. Now, as Hannah is pouring her heart out to the Lord in this temple, we really have to imagine that she is going there, okay? She is not keeping it cute. She is probably boohoo crying. She is truly going there, so much so that the priest, Eli, who is in the temple, thinks that she is drunk. So let's go ahead and pick up in these verses and we'll see how this ends for Hannah. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 15. After the priest thinks she's drunk, Hannah says, "No, my lord." Hannah replied, "I am a woman with a broken heart. I haven't had any wine or beer. I've been pouring my heart out before the Lord." Now, in response to this, in verse 17, the priest says, Eli responded, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant the request that you've made of him." It's right here that Hannah got a promise from God. Now, the priest might not even realize that he was being used by God to encourage Hannah and to give her this word directly from him, that this would be the promise that she could hold on to, that yes, she would get the thing, this child that she was fervently approaching God for. Now let's go ahead and wrap it up with verse 19. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it up on the screen. And it says, "Oh, thank you, sir," she exclaimed. Then she went back and began to eat again, and she was no longer sad. So here you can see she went into the temple one way and she left a different way because she got a word from the Lord, a promise from God that she could hold on to. And just like this story ends in verse 20 saying that Hannah gave birth to a son, before she got that son, the Lord changed her heart. And that is the same thing that he is going to do for us as we are navigating these journeys, and when it feels like he's not doing anything, as we hold on to his promises, our heart begins to change. And that is the sign in and of itself. So that is going to be sign number 3. All right, sis, that is going to be it for me. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with a good sis that you think would also be encouraged by it. Now, one more time, be sure to sign up for the CFT membership club if you are wanting to grow in the area of sisterhood and community this year and beyond. Again, you can use code sisterhood2024 to get 20% off your first month, which basically lands at it being cheaper than a streaming service, and you get intentional sisterhood, you get encouragement, you get prayers, you get prayer requests, you get material to grow in your relationship with God, and you get an amazing group of women to do that alongside. Now, with all of that being said, it is now, of course, your turn. So in the comments below, I would love to know, what is your word, your phrase, or your Bible verse for this year? I know for myself, I generally have 4 different words that God gives me throughout the year. So I'm going to be sharing the word that he has given me for Q1. So whether you work like me and kind of do things in quarters, or God gives you one word for the entire year, let us know in the comments. I think it's going to be really encouraging to see the different ways that God is moving in our lives and how unique they are to where we are and the things that we're going through. So again, drop your words, drop your phrases, drop your Bible verse in the comments below, and I will be doing the same. As always, I love you guys, and again, Happy New Year. I'll see you in my next video. Peace.